Good morning and welcome to Board Game Breakfast for April 28th, 2014. You'll have to forgive me this week. I have a bit of a cold, so if my voice isn't clear, that is why. This past week, I was in LA for a charity event, which I'll talk about in a bit. Had a great time, was able to meet several of the listeners and fans of the show, and that was a lot of fun. A lot of great things coming this week. Let's get right into the news. Fantasy Flight has released more information on Blue Moon Legends, which is their Blue Moon game, a two-player game that came out several years ago with many expansions. This is all now going to be packaged into one box. Blue Moon looks like some of the artwork is redone. Two-player game in which you're trying to get the dragons to come over onto your side. X-Men vs. Avengers Dice Masters was released last week from WizKids to some pretty big fanfare. In fact, WizKids way underestimated the demand for this product, and they're already on their third printing of the game, but it's sold out all over the place. At least the starter decks are. Many stores didn't get as many as they were supposed to get, and so it's caused a big hullabaloo, which isn't that big of a deal because the game will be coming out. They're producing more of it. You will be able to get it as they roll the product out. But if you really want to play it now and can't get a starter deck, they have made PDFs of the basic action cards available online, so you can print them out and play with it, or you can just wait till it comes out and buy it then. Portal Publishing. You might know them from Robinson Crusoe, Narashima Hex, Legacy, things like that. Well, they're actually going to be coming into the U.S. market on their own. They were publishing through other companies, most notably Z-Man, but they will be coming to America with their first game, Imperial Settlers, the new game coming out this year, and it'll be at Gen Con, a booth at Gen Con, so you can go see the Portal folks there. Ultra Pro is creating character sheets for Pathfinder, so you have a mat for your characters. This Pathfinder adventure game seems to be doing quite well. AEG has announced the reprint of the Japanese game Lost Legacy, which is the sequel, in many ways, to Love Letter. Lost Legacy is a more gamery version of that, trying to guess where a certain treasure card is, a legacy card is. A lot of fun, and it looks like there'll be multiple sets of this. Mayfair has announced a game called Villainy, where you are the bad guys trying to stop the Phantastamar, the good guys. Looks like a lot of fun, a lot of good comic book, old-fashioned fun. So last week, obviously, the big release was the Marvel Dice Masters game. While like I said, the starter sets have sold out pretty much everywhere, the booster packs are available. New Haven from R&R Games was released, also from Cryptozoic. Adventure Time, the booster packs, it's turned into a collectible card game. From Cryptozoic, also Capcom Street Fighter deck building game. This is the same system that they've used for Lord of the Rings and for the DC Comics universe. Man, I do like Street Fighter. Stronghold has released Rogue Agent. Zombies Keep Out. Professor Pugnacious, a really bad deck playing game, is out if you want to get that. A playmat for Seven Wonders. I was actually initially excited about this playmat until I noticed that you basically it keeps everything in the middle of the table. I figured I could keep those piles myself, but maybe you want a playmat for that. And Doctor Who Risk. Each of the players, I think, is Daleks, trying to take over as much of the world as they possibly can. All that came out last week. Hopefully some new stuff's coming out this week. I don't have much information on that, though.
Hi there, everyone. This is Scott Nicholson, and welcome to the Ivory Dice Tower. I'm in the middle of talking about my recipe for meaningful gamification, which is the idea of using things that aren't points and aren't badges and aren't achievements, but other things to help encourage people to engage in a different context by using elements of games and play. Today we're talking about the C in the word recipe for choice. Now, the idea of choices comes out of a theory called self-determination theory, which is by DC and Ryan, and the idea of this theory is it's going to help you know when you're in a situation where you're likely to feel good about what you're doing. There's three things you need to do this, and one is you need to feel like you're getting better at something, two is you need to feel like you have relatedness to people around you, that you're not alone, and three, you need to feel like you have choice, that you have the ability to choose your path. And so in games, if you want to encourage people to explore a game space, one way of doing that is to give them choice, to give them the ability to choose. Some people actually say for our games, a key element of what makes our games engaging is interesting decisions. Now, I would say that is an element. It's not the key element for everyone. Some people aren't that interested in having interesting decisions. People who play bingo, for example, they're not playing it for interesting decisions. They may be playing it for the chance to win money, or they may be playing it for time to socially engage with people around them in a different way. And it's actually, I think about it, that the more interesting decisions, the more game mechanisms that come into play, the harder it is to actually have an engaging social engagement outside while you're playing the game that doesn't have to do with the game. So the lighter weight that a game is, so something like bingo, something like liar's dice, or skull and roses, the game doesn't require you to process what's going on in the game a lot, which frees up more of your brain to actually engage directly with other people. And sometimes that's the sort of game I'm looking for. On the other hand, sometimes I'm looking for games like, the 18xx games where I get my head into it and I'm so focused on those interesting decisions. But the idea of choice is that you want to make sure that the people who are engaged feel free to make different choices. One flaw in many board games is when they create the false choice. When they create a choice and they put it out there, and the reality is it's almost always a bad decision to make that choice. But it's offered to the players anyway. And I'm sure you can think about games where it's like you say, oh, no one ever picks that. And that's a mark of poor game design. That's a game design problem. That usually comes about because the designer has said, hey, I have this edge case, this situation that's going to come up every once in a while, and I need a way to deal with it. So I'm going to stick in this choice to deal with that specific edge case. But then the choice always needs to be made available to people. And then it sits out there as a bad choice. And the better thing to do is to step back and redesign the game and say, how can I design it so that edge case isn't a problem, or that edge case can be dealt with interesting choices. So the idea of choice is if you think about like a museum, the museum is around the concept of choice. You can choose what you want to engage with, and by doing so, you can find something that's meaningful to you. So rather than using incentives and points to lure people along a specific path, to say, hey, look at this great thing, instead you give them a space to explore. You give them a space to play, but it's also a space where they can choose. They can choose what to engage in or what not to engage in. But by finding things that they are choosing to do, they can find things that are more meaningful. And that's the C in choice. Next time I'll continue with more meaningful gamification.
If you missed last week, we had another Board Game University coming out. This week we have a Dice Tower Showdown coming from the Dice Tower, as well as our normal Dice Tower, as well as the rest of our podcasts that you can find at Dice Tower Network. The videos, I have several reviews from my contributors, and I myself will hopefully be producing a few reviews. I'm going to give my voice a couple days. Hopefully it will come back to full volume so we can get that out there. I believe Hamtag will be doing another top 5 list this week. So there's a lot of cool videos coming your way. From me, I will be doing Galactic Strike Force. Very excited to talk about that game. Lewis and Clark, Brussels, Spy or Die Trying, Dungeon Pets. So some cool games that I'm really excited to show you guys. So hopefully this voice will come back soon enough. All right, let's take a look at a iOS app.
Hi, Suzanne here with this week's featured board game app. Tom Vasel's Game of the Year for 2010 was Yomi, and it's just been released on iOS. At $10 for the base app, it's a little bit pricey for a tablet game, so let's take a quick look so you can see if maybe this card-based fighter is worth your investment. For a game that combines Street Fighter and rock, paper, scissors, Yomi is surprisingly complex. Lots of unique characters, add-on attacks, and special abilities add variety to what is essentially just players trying to outguess the move their opponent is going to make that round. I haven't played the physical game, so I can't really say how they compare, but I could imagine that some of the nuance of outguessing your opponent is lost without a human player in the room with you. The app version of Yomi was really developed with thought. The graphics look great, the interface is well designed, and the gameplay feels intuitive, especially once you learn the special gestures to do things like flipping your cards. And the animations and sound effects enhance the fighting game feel. There are a lot of rules and icons in the game, and the tutorial does a good job of getting you used to them, but I sense it'll take some time to really get to understand the intricacies of the game. There is online play through Serlin's proprietary system, maybe leading to hope for a platform-agnostic multiplayer in the future. And the online gaming is really interesting in that it adds the ability to view other players' matches in progress, which isn't very common in board game apps. For the $10 base app, you get 10 characters you can play with, and you can get 10 more for another $10 later if you want to. It feels like a steep price for a tablet game, but it's cheap compared to the physical game. And since it's new, I haven't had a lot of time on the app, but I sense that the dollars for play ratio is pretty strong. And it's probably a good way to try the game before you drop a ton of money on the deluxe hard copy. The Yomi app is very polished, and it's fun, especially if you already like the card game. Give it a try.
Hey, we're now standing here in, what city is this again?
Los Angeles, we think. Not Miami.
Yeah, I know. But Board Game Breakfast will return momentarily. We are here because of last year in October, November, we run a auction for the Jack Vasel Memorial Fund. And one of the items in the auction was put up by Rich Sommer, known for being Harry Crane on Mad Men and other movies and things. And he organized a game night with him, Will Wheaton, and Jorge Garcia, and then one lucky winner, and that lucky winner's guest. So Jason won that, and I was his guest. What did you think? What did you think of the whole thing?
It was amazing from start to finish. Rich did a bang-up job setting everything up. Will and Jorge were great to game with. Everything was just amazing. It was the best night you could imagine.
Yeah, people ask, you didn't record it or do it live. We didn't want it to be that way. We didn't want it to be a recorded thing, just kind of like a game night getting together. We took only a couple pictures. We mostly wanted to play games. So we started out with Marvel Dice Masters.
Yep, I lost to Rich.
And Rich was not a comic book fan, actually, and so we had to explain a lot of the different heroes to him. Then we went to Coup, which Will said was one of his favorite games.
Yep. And Will actually won the first game of it.
Yes, we have to make that clear because he often loses on his own show, but we wanted he does win. In fact, that was not the only game of the night he won. He also won Robin Hood. Robin Hood is a great, fantastic game, folks, that's going to be reprinted this summer, the first game in the Dice Tower Essentials line, and it's actually an amazing game. And playing that game with 3 actors is fantastic.
I was lost. They had me fooled during everything.
And then we played Nothing Personal, which is a game that Steve Avery designed with a little help from me. And that went really well. Everyone got into the mood. I mean, everyone got into the mood with every game. Every game, it was like total immersion, total theming. And we had to end that one a little earlier, but I mean, we played for a good hour and a half, Nothing Personal.
Yeah, we had a great time with Nothing Personal. I mean, it's a game that everyone loves, and there might be some secret celebrity cards in the next expansion pack.
Yeah. Now, here's the deal. One of the things I like about being a gamer is when you meet another gamer, there's instant connection. And I really felt that. I never met Jorge Garcia or Will Wheaton before this time. I've done stuff with Rich before in the past, and it was like we knew each other. We talked about games, we talked about life in general. It was just, It was an entertaining time. So if this item shows up next year, well, actually, Jason doesn't want you to bid because he wants to win it again.
I'll bid again. I'll take us out here again. We'll do it 2 times in a row, Rich. We're going to do it.
But it's been a good trip. So any last words for our viewers?
Yeah, I just have to say, the things that really made my night, let's see. It started out we met Rich first. Actually, he was going to show up last, but he came first, which made it perfect because both of us know Rich. And then Will showed up, great time, and for those of you who don't know, his Indiegogo is still going on. So you should go to ilovetabletop.com and really support it. I've already put in money, and if you like that show, they do such a good job, and this is the time to support it while the Indiegogo is still going on. And then Jorge, Tom's probably going to be embarrassed, so I have to tell the story. Jorge comes in, and the first thing he says is, "Tom Vasel from the Dice Tower? I listen to your podcast all the time." Made his night.
Well, maybe.
It made his night.
All right. Well, either way, folks, we appreciate everyone who supports the Jack Vasel Memorial Fund, and we hope that you guys get involved in that in the future. Back to the breakfast.
Kingdom Builder, a game for 2 to 4 players about getting gold by placing settlements. There are 8 tiles. You choose 4 to make the game board. Then out of the 8 bonus location tiles, use 4. Finally, out of the 10 different Kingdom Builder objectives, choose just 3. Already you can see how each game will be different. Everyone has 40 settlements to start. On your turn, choose a terrain card and place 3 settlements onto the board matching that terrain. The rule is you have to build adjacent to existing settlements if possible. The motivation of where to place the settlements depends on what the Kingdom Builder objectives are. For example, in this game you get 1 gold for each settlement beside a mountain hex, 1 gold for each settlement beside water, and 12 gold for the most settlements in each sector. You also get 3 gold for having a settlement beside a city. There are a lot of location tiles which help you reach your goal. When you build beside these locations, you get an action marker that can be used once per turn. For example, the farmer lets you build an extra settlement in a grass hex. The harbor lets you place settlements in the water. A generally friendly game, simple to learn and a fun challenge each time. Surprise your non-gaming friends with this addictive game you'll want to keep replaying. Out of 5, we give this game a 5.
Hello there, Dice Tower viewers! Chaz Marler from the Pair of Dice Paradise board game podcast here, welcoming you to part 7 of my formerly numbered series on running a gaming group. Okay, so you've started your group, found members and a place to play, set a regular schedule, and you've even set up a snack committee. Keep those little chocolate donuts coming, Stonebreaker. So maybe now would be a good time to discuss how to pick the games you introduce to your board game group. Well, every game is somebody's first game, so picking ones that best fit your audience is paramount to kindling their interest in the hobby. Hi there, I see you like Uno. Want to play You Be the Judge? No, I don't want to play board games anymore. Now, I don't often plug blogs on this segment, but board game blogger and Twitterist Gameritis Guy recently wrote an article describing the system that he devised for selecting games to introduce to his group. He calls it the Quick, Simple, Maybe system. Allow me to plagiarize reference his system here. Quick games may also be known as fillers. They're relatively short, so if they bomb, at least they're over with quickly. Gameritis Guy's example of this type of game was Escape. Another example would be Zombie Dice. Simple games may be longer, but they still only introduce 1 or 2 mechanisms. Gameritis Guy suggested Pandemic, due to its co-op nature. Airlines Europe is my example. Maybe games are the long shot game, the wild card that may only hit the table in the perfect storm. Formula D was Gameritis Guy's long shot, and he savored the moment when somebody picked it up off the pile and said, "Oh, this looks interesting. How do you play this?" Hopefully, the Quick, Simple, Maybe system will help introduce a variety of new games to your game group in a way that meshes with their skill levels. And this approach, along with those little chocolate donuts, will keep your players coming back for more and more.
Our question of the week this time is from Ken, and he wants to know, in our reviews and things that we talk about, he says, we often show the different mechanisms of board games, whether it's a deck building game, an auction game, etc. Why don't game boxes tell you this? He said he often looks at the back of a game box and it tells you about things, but doesn't tell you what basically what's inside the box, what the game actually does. Now, I can't speak for most of the companies, but I think I can make some educated guesses on that. First of all, a lot of the terminology that we use here on the Dice Tower and on the board game community on the internet isn't really in the popular vernacular. I mean, really, if I say a deck building game to some people, they're not going to understand what that is. If I say this is area control, and we have to be very cautious ourselves. This is something I often school myself on, talk to my other hosts about, is that we have to be careful that the audience doesn't always know when I say area control, most people aren't going to know that means you want to have the most people in a specific area. So a game company, and also that makes a game can sound dry and boring. I think a lot of these companies are trying to make the game sound as interesting as possible, so they go with the theme, because the theme is what makes the game sound interesting to most people. Now, you may be a person out there saying, no, Vasel, what interests me in a game is mechanisms. Well, that's fine, but most people aren't that way. If I see, this is what the game is, it's a deck building, auction, area control game, that might sound interesting to you, but it's not something that's going to sell the game. Just like when someone advertises a movie, they show you a few clips from that movie, they'll show you some exciting things, they don't say, this is a drama, blah, 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 and list stats about the movie. That's up to the reviewers and other people to do so. So that's my guess. It's mostly for sales purposes. I mean, even some of the most boring themeless games out there, they put the theme on the back of the box because that's what's going to sell the game. Now, is that a good thing for a company to do? Well, that's probably a discussion for another time, I'm not sure. But it certainly makes sense from a sales standpoint. And if you're someone who doesn't like that aspect, you wish they did list things, well, that's what reviewing websites are for, so that people can go to those and find out more information about those games. All right, time to go up to Canada.
Welcome back to Snakes and Lattes. We're going to introduce a brand new segment that we've decided to do for these videos, Viewer Mail. So we're going to answer questions that you guys have sent to us that we think are interesting or entertaining. So here we go. Let's get the old bag out. Let's see what we have. We appear to have laundry. Right. Of course. This is a new segment. We haven't told you about it. Right, there won't be any letters. We'll tell you what. You can send your letters to the information that's appearing on the screen right now. Send your questions, and for future segments, we'll answer them. I'm just going to check to be sure. Let's. What do we got in here? Hey! Wait a minute. Well, we've got some letters, so I guess they're letters from the future. Let's see what we have. All right, dear curator, that's me. I noticed in this week's episode on backstabbing games, that's a good idea, we should do one of those. You were wearing the same red shirt one of you wore on the 2-player episode. I thought you wear a different shirt each episode. What gives? Random McPhony name. Thanks for the question, Randy. See, here's the thing. I'm out of shirts. This is the last shirt that you guys haven't seen me wear yet. So, here's an idea. We could make Randy's timeline a splinter and have it not exist anymore by someone out there sending me a new shirt, size extra large. If you want to mail it to the address that's appearing on your screen right now, yeah, we're doing that again. Great. And maybe we can make Randy not exist anymore. Ooh. Okay, that just got weird.
Hey folks, Snakes and Lattes Game Cafe up in Canada they produce a segment that we just saw, and they are probably the most well-known board game cafe in the Americas. Board game cafes were something that I saw quite a bit of in Korea. There were hundreds of them at one point, although that's died down quite a bit, and many people wanted to know if that would work over here in North America, and I was always kind of worried that it would not work, but Snakes and Lattes obviously has made it work. Well, I had a first-hand opportunity to visit GameHaus Cafe when I was in Los Angeles. That's where we played the games with Will Wheaton, Jorge Garcia, and Rich Sommer. And then I went back there a couple days later and just had some gaming. Some of you guys, the viewers out there, I was able to play games with, but I was able to take a look at this cafe. So how did GameHaus Cafe get started? Well, I talked to one of the owners.
So I'm Robert Cron, and my co-founder and Terry Chu and I, we both created GameHaus Board Game Cafe, which is a board game cafe serving all sorts of food and drink, as well as offering a library of over 750 board games to all of our customers. We started GameHaus, working on GameHaus about a little over 2 years ago. We both were kind of sick and tired of what we were doing with our day jobs. I was working in film and TV and not really getting anywhere, and my partner, he was laid off from his design job, so we just kind of put our heads together and thought, this has been done elsewhere in the world, maybe the Los Angeles needs one, or maybe we can do one in Los Angeles. So we started putting it on paper and doing all sorts of research, and here we are 2 years later.
I like coming here because I love the atmosphere, great vibes, great people, always just positive energy everywhere. You never see anyone grumpy coming to a board game place, so it's a lot of fun. I always have a great time here.
Now you can see there's quite a few games there. I mean, I look at these games here, these are games that I picked, but I wondered, how did they pick the games that they have at the store there?
We sort of wanted to appeal to a really broad range of tastes. We've got people, as young as 5 or 6, and people up to their 30s, 40s, and 50s and 60s. So we wanted to have everything from the familiar family favorites that we played as kids, stuff like Sorry and Clue and Monopoly and Jenga and Categories and all that, all the way up through all the new stuff that's coming out even today. That started back 10, 15 years ago when you had things like Settlers of Catan Catan and Ticket to Ride, that sort of stuff. So we sort of arranged the collection by theme. We've got a number of like party games and trivia games. They're all kind of clumped together. We have adventure games put together. This is sort of our horror section here. We've got like the Lovecraft games, and then the horror games and the monster games. We put a lot of the popular titles like Dominion, that sort of thing, together. So we have Dominion, Catan, and Ticket to Ride in their own section. And then we've got like sci-fi, historical, war games, that sort of thing.
There's definitely a huge selection of games. I mean, way too many. I would have to come here years and years to be able to play every single one of them if I could. I wish I could, but.
So this has sort of become almost a feature of the cafe for anyone who's been playing Dominion. This little sort of Dominion Lazy Susan, which my dad created, and he's been making a few of them for the cafe. He originally made one for a friend of my brother's, so it just makes Dominion just a little bit easier to play. And we've had a lot of people who are really Dominion fans who've really gotten a kick out of it. They've really enjoyed playing on it.
I actually had a chance to play on that Lazy Susan Dominion, and with the game Dominion, and it's really fun. Being able to spin it around, look at the cards, worked really well. While I was there, they also were having a birthday party going on, a special event, and I wondered about the different events that they ran.
We've had a number of events here as well. We'll have people make arrangements for birthday parties. We've had a couple baby showers. In this case, we did an event today for one of our Kickstarter supporters. He was one of the top tier supporters, so he wanted to do his 39th birthday here. So he had a whole bunch of people in this afternoon, and they had cake, and they played all sorts of games. But we've done also other little events in the past, college events, like college social gatherings. They've done events here as well, and like smaller game groups. They'll do the monthly game nights here, and they'll make arrangements with us to come and play. We also get a number of role players as well. There's these fellows who are running a Call of Cthulhu campaign for a while, and they've sort of branched off into other things, but they're fairly regular. They're here usually every Tuesday night.
Now, one thing about GameHaus Cafe was the food there. The pie that they had there was the best pie I've ever had of those two flavors. I had strawberry rhubarb and apple pie, and they were the two best slices of those particular pies that I've ever had. The food there was tremendous. They had delicious sandwiches. So it's interesting. I mean, it is a cafe. How does the food work?
We're the building that we chose to do to have the space in has sort of created a bunch of logistical problems because the building is historic and we have 2 floors of offices above us. So there are huge limitations in what we could or couldn't do with just building out the kitchen space to begin with. So the fact that we can't vent, we can't do any sort of fried food or anything crazy like that. It kind of limited us in the number of appliances that we could bring in and the type of appliances and the specific makes and models. So, but we sort of kind of tailored the menu around that, as well as to the sort of stuff that people would want to have, that sort of comfort food or just stuff to nosh on in the midst of a game. We didn't want to have 4-course meals served in the middle of a game of Here I Stand. So it's basically hot and cold sandwiches. We do soup as well. They usually have a little side salad, that sort of thing. We do cornmeal crust pizzas, which are really good, like a personal size cornmeal crust pizza. And then the standard, we have a full coffee bar, serving all sorts of coffee, espresso drinks, hot and cold tea, that hot chocolate, that sort of thing for the kids. We also partnered with a company in Corona called Tasteful Cakes, who we knew originally through our game group. It's a family-owned cake decorating business and bakery, and they supply a number of our cold case sweets. They do cakes and toffee and cookies, that sort of thing, as well as brownies and other little delicacies and treats, petit fours, that sort. But our specialty, one of our signature dishes is pie. We love pie. We've been making pie for years, even before we started to even think of doing this. So Terry usually bakes at least one, usually 2 pies a day, and we'll blaze through them really, really quick. The pie sells out in a matter of hours. So it's usually we usually do any sort of combination from strawberry rhubarb, or we'll do like a peach blueberry, or usually on the weekends people want an apple pie, so we usually do like a Granny Smith apple pie with a cinnamon crumble, and that's something that people really, really, really love. I mean, pie was so important to us, we made it sort of part of our logo. We've got a pawn, a piece of pie, we have a pawn, a pie, as well as a coffee cup. Those are the 3 images in our logo for GameHaus, so it was important to us that we wanted to include that.
I love the food as well. They have really good sandwiches, great drinks, and everyone. Terry, Rob, such great humble folks. I love them. They're the actual cafe owners, and do a great job of setting the place up.
I tell you folks, if you go there, make sure you get some of that food. It's really good. I recommend the Valdora sandwich. And then I just was curious. This is obviously something that's working so far for them. Will we be able to see this model reproduce? What's in the future for GameHaus Cafe?
We've been really fortunate. We've been open a little over 5 months, and after the first month or so, we had done a New Year's event that sort of went over really big, and ever since then it's sort of been a kind of a whirlwind. We've been amazed at how many people have really kind of gotten behind it, who really kind of understood the concept, and who are really kind of gung-ho and really kind of rooting for us. So we kind of felt fortunate that we had a number of supporters and friends and family to begin with. We had a number of sort of people in our corner, sort of cheerleaders, but that sort of really has ballooned into a huge sort of fan base. I'm amazed we have the amount of repeat business that we have is sort of surprised the both of us. We have people who will come in 2 or 3 times a week. Even on the first weekend that we were open, we had people who came that Friday night and were back the following Sunday morning. They loved it so much. So we've been very, very fortunate. We've kind of been able to keep the expenses down and kind of keep a tamper on the reining in the spending, and kind of going in as lean and mean as we could. So we've sort of been fortunate that it's been not insanely profitable, but profitable enough for us to sort of keep the doors open and keep the lights on. So, and I don't foresee it being a situation where that would change anytime soon. But we've got a lot of traffic and a lot of attention, so a lot of people get it. Our biggest fear when we first opened the doors was that no one would understand it, no one would come, or it would just be sort of a flash in the pan or a novelty. And it's sort of, that's not bearing out to be the case. That people have been coming back again and again and again. So and bringing friends too that they wanted to sort of to introduce to the hobby and introduce to the space, and sort of introduce to this whole new world of gaming. So our hope, our wish, our prayer down the road is that we'd be able to keep this one sustaining, and to the point where we could even focus on doing other ones. A number of people have said that we should be opening different locations in different parts of the city. A number of people have always, even before we opened, we had a number of inquiries about people who would love to franchise. So it's sort of we need to kind of get this one up and running and self-sustaining to the point where we're not here all the time, and then we're sort of going to look at our options from there.
So big thank you for GameHaus Cafe for hosting us while we were there. I had a lot of fun playing games there. I had a lot of fun meeting the game group there. A great group of folks there. The place was packed as time went by. I was there on a Saturday, and as the hours went by, so I'm really hoping to see this succeed. I'm hoping to see things like this pop up all over the place. Come on down to Miami, somebody start one up there. I got your back. It's a really cool concept, and if you're ever in LA, I hope that you go visit the GameHaus Cafe. Okay, well, we're almost done here. Let's talk about real-time games.
And go.
What am I supposed to be doing? Welcome to the Board Game Nights. I'm Christoph Schrader.
I'm Sam Gillespie.
And today we're going to have a look at real-time based board games.
Heaps of time.
And
go. Real-time games often feature simultaneous turns where players have to accomplish an action as quickly as they can. They are really fun, really light games. They're great for new players, and they end in a very short period of time. Christoph, your turn?
Okay, they're also very good for people who often analyze things too much, as you have to make a very quick and efficient decision to do things well. A great example of this is Escape from the Curse of the Temple, where you're all trying to roll dice to try and get out of the temple as fast as possible.
Ooh, just in time, Christoph.
Oh, jeez, that's probably a bit too much, guys. You're destroying the wall.
So, this dice rolling mechanic used in Escape was actually used in a modern game called Space Cadets Dice Duel, where players have two teams that are trying to navigate ships through space trying to destroy each other. But because there's so many things happening at any given time, mistakes are abound, and it's hilarious to see things all fall apart catastrophically. Alright, Christoph, it's your turn.
It's good you say that, because another game that uses the mechanic very well is a game called Ladies and Gentlemen. Now it also adds a dexterity mechanic in the game. It's another team-based game as well, where the gentlemen in the team are trying to flip over different tokens in real time to try and find the best goods to trade in for money.
Nice.
We hope you enjoyed our introduction to real-time based board games.
Quickly, Christoph, quickly!
Enjoy the rest of your board game breakfast.
And that's it for Board Game Breakfast this week. Folks, thanks so much for watching and putting up with my not very clear voice. Anyhow, we got a lot of work to do. There's a lot of great things to talk about and exciting things coming. We're moving into May, which means the convention season is almost upon us. Lots of games to talk about. Don't forget you can get just the audio version of this show and other shows at dicetoweraudio.com and find about all the rest of our podcasts at dicetowernetwork.com. Until next time, I'm Tom Vasel, and you've been watching Board Game Breakfast.
Thanks for watching Board Game Breakfast. Tune in each week for your daily dose of gaming goodness with Tom Vasel and all the gang. Until next time, I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching Board Game Breakfast, a Dice Tower production. Sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., an amazing place to buy board games. Cool stuff, in stock, at coolstuffinc.com.
One thing Tom forgot to mention is how everyone else won a game, but Tom, I think you could explain to everyone how you were the only one who didn't win a game during our game night.
That's it. Cut. No more.